Nerd reactor, roll out.
What's up, Reactorites? John here, and yes, Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red. It's not a good week for them. The game came out. So far, I've been enjoying it just because I've been playing it on my PC. There are still some bugs, but I still like the world, the characters, and all that. It's still a lot of fun. But for others playing on the PS4, the base, lots of bugs. I'm hearing reports of crashing and textures not loading up, and just the game just looking really bad. And recently, CD Projekt Red, they released a statement. They're apologizing for the version that's out now for the base PS4 and Xbox One, and they're working on fixing it, patching it so that it's running better. But yeah, so that's CD Projekt Red getting a lot of flack for that. But they're also getting a lot of flack from reviewers and journalists for the lack of any trans characters. And, for this game, you already know you can create a trans character like V. You do male V, female V. You can mix and match like the voices and the body parts. So the game allows you to do that. You can create certain characters how you want it. And I do wish there's, it was more robust, but there's that. I just want to say there is a meaningful trans character in the game, which the journalists and reviewers have missed. And this is a problem for game reviewers, because they're rushed to do this. They have to beat a deadline. They have so many few days to do it because CD Projekt Red didn't give reviewers enough time to do it. And also reviewers, it's like the crunch, they got to release this before the game comes out so that they get people coming in and reading the review. But then they also have ratings and all that, and they say things that just sound very ignorant because they didn't fully complete the game. So it's a problem with game reviewers. But for this one, I want to talk about two outlets that are... There are probably more, but the two prominent ones, they've been talking about this and how CD Projekt Red or Cyberpunk 2077 doesn't feature any trans characters. And so let's read them. All right, so for this one is from Carolyn Petit from Polygon saying, I could have forgiven if the rest of the game took strides to humanize trans identities, but boy, it sure doesn't. That person's wrong about that. The writer continues, in my 40 plus hours in Night City, I never met a single character of any significance whom the game made clear was trans, and one of the only queer-coded characters I encountered was an extremely unsavory cybernetic surgeon who does extremely unsavory things. Oh, this is from Comic Book Resources Anthony Gramuglia. I might be butchering that name, but this person writes, it seems odd that reviewers who have played anywhere from 40 to 60 hours have yet to encounter any meaningful trans NPCs. The only trans character seems to be iterations of the playable character V or the models fetishized on posters. This is a potential spoiler ahead if you don't want to learn about certain characters and who they are or their background, because when I played this, I was surprised when I found out. And it was done in such an organic way. I love how CD Projekt Red did this, and it wasn't like in your face, because how is a trans character supposed to reveal themselves to people? I have a trans friend who doesn't go out announcing like, hey, I'm trans, And so they would keep it private, and through, certain dialogue, you will be able to like find out more. And then, but yeah, it's all about context. So for me, so far I've logged in 40 hours of Cyberpunk 2077 as the corporal, and I'm doing side missions, I'm doing the main story. And I think like with a lot of reviewers, they're just focused on the main story, so they didn't do a lot of side missions. And these side missions are meaty. They're like really good. I'm like surprised at how I'm enjoying them and I'm invested in them, because at first I was trying to focus on the story. I want to know what happens to V, what's up with Johnny Silverhand. And I'm doing these side missions. Some of them are kind of like meh, but then some of them, they really hook you and you're like, oh, now I want to know more, including like Judy's side mission, Pan Am's side mission, and Claire. Claire has side missions too, and she is the one I'll be talking about with this one. She is the trans character that I think is meaningful and significant in the game. And you meet her early in the game at the Afterlife bar, and she's like there, like people see her, like all the reviewers have encountered and experienced her as a character, because if you go to the Afterlife bar, you're gonna have to do certain missions there or meet up with certain people there. And with Claire, she invites you to join these deadly races. It kind of reminds me of the Death Race movies. So with Claire, there's already a hint of her trans background. You check out her vehicle in the races. You get to drive her vehicle, and on the back, it's the trans pride flag, and it's right on the back. And with her vehicle, I use her. You have the option of driving in your own vehicle or hers, but I chose for hers because she prepped this just for the races. So I was like, she already has this beast, I'm going to use it. And if you do like a few of the race missions later on, if you win them, you get to talk to her, and she gives you some more info on why she's doing these races now and what it means to her. And she talks about her husband Dean, who died, and through this background you learn that she's a trans character. And in one of the scenes she says, "Sweetest man I ever knew, we were friends before my gender transition."
Yeah, me and Dean, we like to come here.
Wanted to tell me something?
I mentioned Dean before. My husband, yeah?
Wield your heat, right?
Sweetest man I ever knew. We were friends before my gender transition. Brought daffodils to the hospital. To new beginnings, he said.
Were you married long?
12 years. Dean used to laugh that for our 15th, said he'd finally talked me into my first implant. I was prepping some surprise.
She also talks about how she doesn't want to have Chrome installed, because everyone's like a cyborg. And so she does go with the gender transition, but she remains to be still like fully human without any cybernetic parts.
Mind if I ask why you don't sport any chrome?
I love machines, V, I do. But I don't ever want to become one. Is that weird?
A little, I guess, but it's fine.
Dean. Only person who could have convinced me to chrome up. But guess we'll never know if he'd have managed, huh?
Why tell me about Dean? Meaning, why now?
He died during a race last year. The final. Not your standard fatality, though.
This have something to do with our race?
And this was such a touching moment for me, like as a character or as a player watching this. And I was like, Claire, I'm going to help you on your mission, because she is trying to exact revenge or get justice for her deceased husband. And the person that was responsible for the death of her husband is in the race. So now we got to figure out a way to stop this person. And but yeah, that's Claire. That's the character of Claire. And so let's going back to comic book resources. Gramulia writes, trans identity is treated as a product because everything is a product designed to be sexualized in this future. However, there's never any contrast established. With other elements of Night City, players see how the commodified image contrasts with the rougher, harsher reality. This is not the case with LGBTQ characters, especially not trans characters. And yes, there are advertisements that are sexualized on billboards, posters, and all that, but that's not just for trans characters. That's for heterosexual, cisgendered characters, and all that. And in the game, you encounter all types of characters. There are LGBTQ characters, including Judy Alvarez and Carrie Uridine. These are characters that you can romance in them. And these are characters that I think are meaningful too. They're significant, especially like Judy, you know, you go on her journey and she is really caring, she's compassionate, she's looking out for her friend, and as V is trying to help them out, she sees the value in her or him or whoever you want to choose as V. But yeah, these Cyberpunk 2077, like, you know, say whatever you want about like the bugs or all the crashes, like the story, like it's still there. You have these characters that you want to root for and you fall for. It's not just LGBTQ characters. It's also other characters, cisgendered characters, you know, like Jackie, even, you know, characters like Johnny Silverhand. You know, he's a dick, but you're like trying to figure out what happened to Johnny Silverhand. It's just the state of just video game journalism and reviews where they're jumping the gun. Because of that, they miss out on these character moments because they're trying to meet a deadline. For this video, it's just more about me showing some appreciation to Claire, which the journalists and reviewers have completely missed. And Claire is a super dope character. She's a bartender at the Afterlife, but she's also out there with another hobby, like fixing up cars and racing. So that's like her one of her favorite pastimes, and she is a very meaningful and significant character in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. Let me know what your thoughts are on this game and about Claire as a character on the comments below. With that said, I'm John, and I'll see you guys next time.